Have you ever wondered how sugar is made? This sweet, crystalline substance that we sprinkle on our morning cereal, mix into our favorite baked goods, and savor in our beloved candies has a story as complex and intriguing as its taste is simple and satisfying. Let's take a moment to appreciate sugar. It's not just a sweet treat or an ingredient in our pantry. It's a global commodity, a staple of our diets, and an integral part of our cultural and culinary traditions. From the sugar-laden celebrations of Halloween and Christmas to the daily ritual of sweetening our coffee or tea, sugar is woven into the very fabric of our lives. But where does this all-important substance come from? The answer is as natural as the earth itself. Sugar is derived primarily from two plants, sugarcane and sugar beets. Sugarcane, a tall, thick grass native to the tropical regions of South Asia, is the world's largest crop by production quantity. Sugar beets, on the other hand, are a root vegetable that thrives in temperate climates, contributing a significant portion to the world's sugar supply. These two plants, though different in appearance and growing conditions, share a common sweetness. They both store sugar in their tissues, a trait that has made them invaluable to humans for thousands of years. From the ancient civilizations of India, where sugarcane was first domesticated, to the modern farms of Europe and North America, where sugar beets are now extensively cultivated, these plants have given us the gift of sweetness. But the journey from plant to packet is not a simple one. It's a journey that involves careful cultivation, meticulous extraction, and precise refinement. It's a journey that transforms a green leafy stalk or a rough, earthy root into the fine white crystals that we know as sugar. So let's embark on this journey together. Let's uncover the sweet mystery of sugar, exploring its origins, its production, and its place in our world. Now, let's dive into the fascinating process of how sugar is made. So where does the journey of sugar begin? The tale of sugar starts with two humble plants, sugarcane and sugar beets. Sugarcane, a tropical grass, thrives in warm, sun-soaked regions, while sugar beets favor the cooler climates of the temperate zone. Both these plants share a common quality. They are naturally rich in sucrose, the raw material for our sweet delight. The cultivation of these plants is a meticulous process. For sugarcane, the land is prepared and cane stalks are planted in rows, requiring ample sunlight, fertile soil, and plenty of water to grow. In contrast, sugar beets are sown as seeds and grow best in a well-drained, sandy soil. The harvest season arrives after 12 to 18 months for sugarcane and about 6 months for sugar beets. The plants are then carefully harvested, the sugarcane cut close to the ground, and the sugar beets pulled from the earth. Once harvested, these plants are ready for the next stage, extraction. How do we get sugar from these plants? That's the sweet question we're tackling now. Let us start with sugarcane, the tropical grass that's a primary source of sugar. Once harvested, the cane is swiftly transported to the mill to prevent deterioration. It's here where the extraction begins with the crushing process. The sugarcane is passed through a series of heavy-duty rollers that squeeze out the sweet juice, leaving behind fibrous material known as bagasse. This bagasse is often used as a biofuel for the sugar mills, a neat little example of recycling in action. Now let's travel from the tropics to the temperate climates where sugar beets thrive. Unlike sugarcane, sugar beets don't have their sweetness easily accessible. Instead, the beets need to be sliced into thin strips, or cassettes, to expose more surface area. These cassettes are then soaked in hot water in a process called diffusion. The heat and water work together to draw out the sugar from the beets, creating a sugary juice. Whether it's from sugarcane or sugar beets, this juice is a murky, impure solution. But don't fret, it's not destined to stay that way. The juice undergoes a process of purification, where lime and carbon dioxide are introduced. This combination reacts with the impurities, forming a thick substance that can be easily removed. And there we have it, clear, sweet juice, ready to be further refined into the white granules we know and love. But wait, we're not quite there yet. This juice still contains a lot of water, and it's not quite as sweet as it could be. So how do we get from this sugary solution to the crystalline sweetness that is sugar? Well, that's a tale of evaporation, crystallization, and a whole lot of spinning. But we'll delve into those details in the next stage of our sweet journey. Now that we have the juice, it's time to refine it. What happens to the juice after extraction? You might think the hard part is over, but the process of turning that sweet juice into the white crystals we know and love is just as fascinating. This is the refinement stage where science and sweetness come together. The first step in refining is clarification. This process is all about clarity, as the name implies. The juice, murky and thick with impurities, needs to be cleaned up. This is done by heating the juice and adding lime to it. The heat and lime together cause the impurities to coagulate and form a substance called mud. This mud is then filtered out, leaving behind a clear juice, ready for the next stage. Up next is evaporation. This step is where the juice starts to look a little more like the sugar we're familiar with. The clarified juice is boiled under vacuum conditions. This causes the water in the juice to evaporate, leaving behind a thick, syrupy liquid known as massecuite. It's a French term that translates to cooked mass, and that's exactly what it is. The last stage in refining is crystallization. This is where the magic really happens. The massecuite is spun in large centrifuges, and this is when the sugar crystals begin to form. As the syrup spins, the sugar molecules start to gather together, forming crystals. The speed and temperature of the spinning process determine the size of the crystals. By the end of this stage, we have raw sugar crystals. They are brown in color and still have a layer of molasses on them. This raw sugar is what's used to make brown sugar. It has a richer, deeper flavor than white sugar and is often used in baking. We have our raw sugar crystals, but we're not quite done yet. The final stage of the process, the final touches, is where we get the white, granulated sugar that we're most familiar with. But that's a story for another scene. How does raw sugar become the white granules we know? Well, let's venture into the final stages of sugar production to find out. It's a fascinating process, really, involving a couple of key steps: centrifugation and drying. Centrifugation sounds like a complex term, but it's really quite straightforward. It's all about spinning. You see, the raw sugar is placed into a centrifuge, which is essentially a large spinning machine. As the centrifuge spins at high speed, the molasses, that thick, dark, syrupy stuff, is flung out. The molasses, being denser than the sugar crystals, is naturally drawn to the outer edges of the centrifuge and is then drained away. What's left behind? You guessed it, our sugar crystals, but they're not quite ready yet. The sugar crystals at this stage are still a bit damp from the molasses and need to be dried out. This leads us to the next step in the process: drying. The damp sugar is fed into a large rotating drum or a fluidized bed dryer, where a current of hot air is passed through it. This removes the remaining moisture from the sugar and helps to further crystallize it. But wait, there's more. The sugar isn't quite done yet. It's still not the pure white we recognize. So it undergoes a process known as affination, where it's mixed with a concentrated syrup that dissolves the outer coating of the crystals. This mixture is then centrifuged again to separate the now white sugar from the syrup. And finally, the sugar is ready for packaging and distribution. It's sieved to ensure consistency and crystal size and then packed into bags or boxes, ready to be shipped off to supermarkets, bakeries, or your very own kitchen cupboard. And there you have it, the journey from plant to sugar bowl. The process is intricate and precise, but the result is the sweet, white granules we all know and love. The next time you stir a spoonful of sugar into your coffee, take a moment to appreciate the journey it's been on. It really is quite remarkable. So just to recap, the journey of sugar from field to table is a long and intricate one. It starts with the cultivation of two primary sources: sugarcane, a tropical grass, and sugar beets, a root vegetable. These plants, rich in sucrose, are harvested and transported to factories. Here, the extraction process begins, as the raw materials are cleaned, crushed, and heated to extract sugary juice. This juice is then clarified to remove impurities and evaporated to concentrate the sweetness. Through the refinement stage, the juice undergoes crystallization, where it is heated and cooled repeatedly until sugar crystals form. These crystals are spun in a centrifuge to remove molasses and create raw sugar. Finally, the raw sugar undergoes a purification process, where it is washed, filtered, and bleached to produce the final product: the white, sweet granules we all know and love. Next time you sweeten your coffee, you'll know the journey those granules have been on. Isn't that a sweet thought?